Leslie Palacios, a 22-year-old nursing student with a stable life and a future that seemed already mapped out. Left home for a date in late August 2020 and never returned. What truly happened during that brief window of time?
Prosecutors say video from the morning of August 29th shows 25-year-old Eric Rangel Ibarra helping 22-year-old Leslie Palacios, seen here alive, get out of his truck and into the house. An hour later, in video we've blurred due to its graphic nature, the same camera catches Rangel Ibarra and another man, who prosecutors believe is his father, 46-year-old Jose Rangel, dragging a lifeless body from the home and into that same truck. Minutes after, the truck drives off, leaving Rangel hosing off the walkway.
Leslie Palacios was a 22-year-old young woman living in Las Vegas, in the state of Nevada, United States. Leslie was studying nursing with the goal of becoming a nurse in the near future. Those close to her described Leslie as disciplined, calm, family-oriented, and consistently prioritizing her education. She devoted most of her time to school, a part-time job, and maintaining close relationships, especially with her mother, Leslie Palacios, who had a significant influence on Leslie's decisions and life direction. At 22 years old, Leslie was steadily building a stable, independent life with clear plans for her future in the healthcare field. However, everything began to take a different turn in late August 2020, when Leslie met Eric Rangel Ibarra, 25, and started spending time with, meeting, and dating this man. On the evening of Friday, August 28, 2020, close to midnight, Leslie Palacios and Eric Rangel Ibarra, on their first date together, drove to the parking lot of Longhorn Casino, located in the Whitney area, a region previously known as East Las Vegas. Built in 1989, the casino was a familiar destination for both tourists and local residents, known for its casual atmosphere and being far less crowded than the central Las Vegas Strip. After parking, the two entered the building and headed straight to the Chuck Wagon restaurant, walking past rows of slot machines and gaming tables. At that time, Leslie was a nursing student only a few months away from completing her program, while Eric appeared focused on the meeting itself, spending much of the time talking about the newly forming relationship between the two of them. The two sat down for dinner at the restaurant, and throughout the meal, each of them had a few drinks, with no signs that the evening was unusual or tense. After finishing their food, they left the restaurant while still appearing sober and walked directly toward the exit without stopping in the gaming area, a routine common among many local patrons. Leslie carried a takeout bag, while Eric Rangel Ibarra presented himself as a familiar companion who appeared trustworthy. Due to the health regulations in place at the time, Leslie wore a face mask as she exited the casino, while Eric did not put his mask back on, allowing his face to be clearly captured on security cameras. The dinner lasted approximately an hour and a half, and by then, it had entered the early hours of Saturday morning. The two continued talking as they walked out to the parking lot, after which Leslie moved around to the passenger seat of the pickup truck, while Eric took the driver's seat to leave the area. For many people, the date might have ended at that point, but in a city that operates almost without pause like Las Vegas, the night continued to stretch on after leaving the parking lot of Longhorn Casino. Leslie Palacios and Jose Rangel traveled to their next stop, Putter's Bar and Grill, located on East Charleston Avenue, arriving at approximately 2:15 a.m., roughly 20 minutes after departing the previous location. There, the two remained for a period of time and continued consuming beverages containing harmful substances before leaving, although no staff members were able to determine the exact time of their departure. While for many, this would have marked the end of a long night, the pair did not conclude their outing, instead continuing on to another location within the city, specifically a venue belonging to the Bourbon Street sports bar chain, where they were recorded spending additional time together and continuing to consume beverages containing harmful substances throughout their stay. Finally, after hours of moving between and spending time at various locations across the city, Leslie Palacios and Jose Rangel ended the night and returned to Eric's residence, where security cameras recorded the pickup truck stopping on the street in front of the house at approximately 5:30 a.m. just before sunrise. At that point, Leslie showed clear signs of exhaustion after the long night, prompting Eric to assist her out of the vehicle and help guide her into the house. While neither of them displayed any visible signs of tension or conflict, Eric took Leslie up to his bedroom inside the home owned by his father, Jose Rangel, and his wife, where Eric's sister was also living, while other family members were still resting during the early morning hours. Jose had plans to take his wife to a church event later that morning, but at that time he was not fully awake and did not personally witness the couple entering the house, and from the moment the door closed, no one else saw or documented what took place inside the quiet home as it remained wrapped in sleep. By Saturday afternoon, when Leslie Palacios still had not returned home from the date the night before, her family began to grow increasingly worried, especially her mother, Leslie Palacios, and her sister, Leslie Palacios, as all attempts to contact her went unanswered. After repeatedly calling and sending messages to Leslie throughout the morning without any response, they contacted the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department to report that she had not returned home and could not be reached. The family also provided officers with details about the last communication Leslie had received from Leslie, which was a brief message sent from Leslie's own phone stating that she needed to tell her sister something. However, after Leslie replied, asking what had happened, no further messages or calls were ever sent from Leslie from that point onward. When receiving the report from Leslie Palacios' family, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department applied a procedure that, at that time, many law enforcement agencies across the United States were in the process of phasing out, requiring the family to wait a full 24 hours before a missing person case could be officially recorded. For decades, this waiting rule had been considered standard practice, intended to allow time for individuals who may have left voluntarily due to an argument, a personal issue, or a travel disruption to return home, particularly during periods when communication was limited and mobile phones were not widely available. Over time, however, experts came to recognize that this approach often cost crucial hours in verifying and searching for genuine missing persons, sometimes leading to serious consequences. As mobile phone use became widespread and communication nearly instantaneous, most police departments shifted toward opening investigations immediately upon receiving an initial report. Based on the understanding that family members and close contacts are usually the most familiar with a person's habits and behavior. Despite this shift, in Leslie Palacios' case, Her family was informed that they would still need to wait the required amount of time under the older procedure before the situation would be handled as an official missing person case. Leslie Palacios' family complied with the police's request to wait. But at the same time, they took proactive steps to seek information by attempting to contact Jose Rangel, Eric's father, to determine whether he knew anything about what had occurred the night before. However, all of their calls went unanswered. They then continued trying to reach Eric's sister, but with the same result, receiving no response. Leslie's family went directly to Jose Rangel's home, yet no one came to the door. And when they returned to the location approximately 1 hour later, they reported seeing Eric's mother and sister moving several items into the bed of a truck. Despite this, they were unable to approach or speak directly with any member of the family. The following day, when Leslie Palacios still had not appeared and had not responded to any attempts by her family to reach her, they again contacted the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, and this time, an official missing person case was opened. The family provided investigators with all the information they had about the individual Leslie had been with the night before, along with details related to her expected schedule and plans.
Police say 22-year-old Leslie Palacios was last seen at the Longhorn Casino. She has been missing for 6 days. Now police are considering foul play in her disappearance. Palacios' family says she went to meet with a friend on the 28th of August. She texted her mom about 4 in the morning, saying, quote, "Hey, I need to tell you something." A neighbor says that same day someone was outside yelling for help, and home surveillance video that is dark shows some sort of struggle. Palacios has 2 tattoos, one on her left arm of a zodiac sign and a butterfly on her back. Anyone with any information is asked to call Crime Stoppers. That number's in the lower right of your screen, 702-385-5555.
During that same period, on August 31st, a separate missing persons report was received by another division of the police department, involving 2 men, Jose Rangel and his son, Eric Rangel Ibarra, who were reported to have left their residence and could not be contacted. It was not until September 1st, when officers from the Missing Persons Unit reviewed and cross-referenced the information between the cases, that the connection between the 2 reports became clear. Particularly after the Palacios family confirmed that Eric Rangel Ibarra was the man who had gone on a date with Leslie and had been with her on the final night she was seen. Immediately after the connection between the cases was established, a BOLO alert was issued, and officers from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department simultaneously conducted checks at the residences of the Palacios family and the Rangel family, 2 locations separated by only a few blocks and confirmed to have a long-standing acquaintance spanning nearly 15 years. During a review of the area surrounding the Rangel family home on Tipper Avenue, officers discovered a neighborhood security camera positioned with a direct view of the front of the house, and after quickly obtaining access to the footage, they rewound the recordings to the early morning hours of August 29th. The images captured revealed decisive details, sufficient to determine that the situation was no longer a simple missing person case. As a result, the 2 initial reports were swiftly reclassified as a serious criminal investigation and transferred to the department's homicide unit for further in-depth investigation.
Prosecutors say video from the morning of August 29th shows 25-year-old Eric Rangel Ibarra helping 22-year-old Leslie Palacios, seen here alive, get out of his truck and into the house. An hour later, in video we've blurred due to its graphic nature, the same camera catches Rangel Ibarra and another man, who prosecutors believe is his father, 46-year-old Jose Rangel, dragging a lifeless body from the home and into that same truck. Minutes after, the truck drives off, leaving Rangel hosing off the walkway.
At that time, both Jose Rangel and Eric Rangel Ibarra were no longer present at the residence and were determined to be unreachable, leaving their family members without any clear information regarding their whereabouts. While investigators concluded that the Rangel family home needed to be treated as the scene of a serious incident, search warrants were quickly issued, and officers along with forensic personnel conducted a comprehensive examination of the house, where they documented indications that the interior had undergone an unusual cleaning effort, believed to have been intended to alter the original condition following a severe tragedy. At the same time, alerts were widely distributed containing identifying information for the two men and the pickup truck they were using, including the license plate. While investigators systematically searched each room of the two-story home, collecting and documenting any remaining evidence to support the ongoing investigation. Later, Detective Mitchell Dorsch of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department testified before a grand jury that the search of the Rangel family home yielded numerous details of significant evidentiary value. On the living room couch, officers discovered a pair of blue rubber gloves, and in the adjacent dining area they found another set of gloves along with various cleaning supplies. In the kitchen, inside a mop bucket, there was a stained cleaning cloth, while the mop head showed the presence of unusual dark marks. Upstairs, Eric's bedroom was documented as being in disarray, with multiple items moved from their original positions, and notably, the bedsheet had been removed from the mattress and was no longer present in the room. On the surface of the mattress, investigators observed several dark stains that drew particular attention. Inside the room, a loyalty card later confirmed to be registered under Eric's name was also collected, along with a shirt belonging to Eric hanging on a hook that bore suspicious markings. Eric's wallet was found in the bedroom, containing no cash, but still holding all of his identification. Additionally, during an examination of the bathroom area, investigators documented two dark, streak-like splatter marks on the floor and collected samples for analysis, although at that time the exact origin of those marks could not yet be definitively determined. While investigators continued searching the Rangel family home, arrest warrants for Eric Rangel Ibarra and his father, Jose Rangel, were sworn out and issued, and the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department worked with local media outlets to release community alerts. These notices included identifying photographs of both men, including images taken during the period when public health measures were in effect, and many people regularly wore surgical masks. In an effort to assist the public with identification, however, by the time the alerts were widely disseminated, Eric and Jose had already left the area, preventing law enforcement from locating and apprehending them in a timely manner. These alerts drew the attention of an individual who was acquainted with Eric Rangel Ibarra, who subsequently contacted local investigators and provided information considered meaningful to the investigation. The man stated that he had known Eric for approximately 5 to 6 years, and that their most recent in-person encounter had occurred a few weeks before Leslie Palacios lost contact, when Eric unexpectedly appeared at a restaurant where he was dining and was visibly not in control of himself. According to his account, Eric sat down at the table and asked questions that seemed unusual, questioning whether they were truly friends and whether the man would be willing to help him with something in the future if asked. The man said he found the request strange but responded vaguely, as he sensed that Eric was not in a stable state at the time, and after Eric left. He gave little further thought to the exchange until the morning of Saturday, August 29th, when the alerts seeking Eric began appearing in the media. The man stated that later that morning he received a call from an unfamiliar phone number, and when he answered, the caller was Eric Rangel Ibarra, who immediately referenced their earlier conversation and said that he needed help. According to testimony given before the grand jury, Eric asked the man to bring him some fuel, explaining that he could not purchase it himself because he did not want to appear at any location with surveillance cameras. When asked why, Eric said that he was in Utah, approximately 125 miles north of Las Vegas, and emphasized that his situation was extremely tense. The request struck the man as confusing, not only because of the unreasonable distance involved, but also because Eric was calling from a different phone number than usual. After which, Eric explained that he was using a disposable communication device in order to avoid being tracked. According to the man's testimony, the call then unexpectedly shifted into a far more serious direction when Jose Rangel Ibarra made statements that caused the entire sequence of prior events to no longer be viewed as an ordinary missing person case, but rather as an exceptionally serious situation. Without going into explicit detail, the man said that Eric declared he had caused an irreversible tragedy and asserted that the victim was at that moment located in the back of his pickup truck, a claim he repeated when the listener expressed disbelief. In response to these statements, the man immediately refused to participate in any further actions, explaining that he needed to pick up his child that morning and could not help, while also emphasizing that Eric had made a grave mistake by disclosing such information to him. The call ended shortly thereafter, and when alerts related to the case began appearing in local media, the man voluntarily contacted police to provide a full account of the conversation. In the period that followed, Jose Rangel Ibarra was determined to have returned to Las Vegas, where he appeared to reunite with his father, Jose Rangel, after which the two men left the area together without notifying anyone of their destination or explaining what had occurred beforehand. There was no indication that they spoke with family members or friends or left behind any message accounting for their actions, and investigators found no record of financial activity through debit cards, no mobile phone signals, and no witness statements placing the two men at any identifiable location. For a brief period, they disappeared entirely from view, leaving behind Jose's wife and daughter with no explanation for their sudden absence. It was not until September 9th, 2020, that the remains of Leslie Palacios were discovered. When Moapa Tribal Police, the Red Rock Search and Rescue Team, and investigators from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department conducted a coordinated search in the Moapa Valley area near Valley of Fire State Park, approximately 60 miles northeast of Las Vegas. The location was identified several miles east of Interstate 15, along Valley of Fire Highway, and roughly 2,500 feet down a dirt road, where Leslie's remains were found, concealed behind a bush inside a dry wash. According to later testimony before a grand jury, investigators stated that her body had been severely affected by days of extreme heat exposure, along with significant insect activity, making it difficult to determine her original condition. Initial identification was made by matching the clothing Leslie had been seen wearing in surveillance footage from the night of the date, including a striped shirt and blue jeans, with items recovered on or near the area where her remains were found. When discovered, the remains of Leslie Palacios were found with incomplete clothing, with garments noted as not being properly arranged, according to statements from a detective assigned to the victim recovery team who participated in the examination. Certain aspects of the clothing condition suggested irregularities in how they had been repositioned, while Leslie's pants were located separately in a nearby bush. Her body was subsequently transported to the state laboratory for the necessary examinations and forensic analysis to determine the cause of her passing. However, due to prolonged exposure to harsh desert conditions and extreme heat, specialists were unable to reach a definitive conclusion regarding the specific cause. One day after the location was discovered, Leslie's family, friends, and members of the community held a memorial gathering to acknowledge and bring closure to the search, marking the moment when all hope of finding her safe formally came to an end. After leaving Las Vegas, Eric Rangel Ibarra and his father, Jose Rangel, vanished completely, with no reliable reports placing them at any location for several months afterward. It was not until January 19, 2021, more than 3 months later, that Jose Rangel unexpectedly turned himself in at a border crossing between the United States and Mexico, where he was immediately taken into custody by officials from the Santa Teresa Border Patrol Station near San Diego, and local authorities in Las Vegas were notified. According to records, Jose voluntarily waived his Miranda rights and did not contest extradition, expressing his desire to return to the United States to cooperate with law enforcement and reunite with his family. In his initial statement, he said that he had separated from Eric while in Mexico, and that from that point forward, he had received no information about his son's whereabouts for many months. According to investigators, from the outset of the interview process, Jose Rangel appeared cooperative. However, he initially provided an account that minimized his level of involvement in the incident. After being shown surveillance footage, Jose retracted his original statement and offered a more detailed account to officers. He stated that in the early morning hours, he had awakened early and was working in the family garage, preparing to take his wife to a church event later that morning, while also tending to household tasks. During this time, he heard Eric Rangel Ibarra and Leslie Palacios return to the house and move upstairs in an unsteady state. According to Jose, approximately 30 minutes later, Eric came back down the stairs without a shirt, dragging behind him Leslie's lifeless body, which had been placed on a bedsheet. According to Jose Rangel's statement, Eric told him that Leslie had experienced a serious incident involving harmful substances and was no longer responsive. After which Eric became panicked and repeatedly said that they needed to do something before other members of the household discovered what had happened. Jose stated that he agreed to help remove Leslie's lifeless body from the house in order to prevent his wife and daughters from coming downstairs and accidentally witnessing the situation. He testified that when he saw Leslie, he did not observe any obvious external injuries, did not notice dark marks or immediately recognizable abnormalities, and that her clothing was incomplete, with garments not positioned properly. Jose said that he helped Eric place Leslie into the pickup truck, and then immediately used a hose to wash the gravel area outside the house while his son drove away with the vehicle. He emphasized to investigators that at the time, he acted in a state of confusion and panic, without realizing that his actions could affect the original condition of the situation. According to Jose's account, he believed that Eric had left the house heading toward Utah with the intention of handling Leslie's body at another location, and while in a state of emotional distress, Jose went to the home of another daughter who lived nearby in an effort to calm himself and talk things through. However, not long after he arrived, Eric unexpectedly appeared at that residence, something Jose said he had not anticipated at all, and it was there that Eric began exhibiting uncontrolled behavior, loudly threatening to harm himself or his own father, while also stating that someone might come looking for the family. Faced with this situation, Jose testified that he chose to leave with his son. The two returned to the house to gather all available cash and then traveled toward California before crossing the border into Mexico later that same night. Throughout the journey, according to Jose, Eric refused to discuss in detail what had occurred, beyond repeatedly stating that Leslie had suffered an incident involving harmful substances and that he himself had consumed far too many drinks during the night before. Ultimately, Jose Rangel entered into a plea agreement accepting legal responsibility, in which he acknowledged his actions following the serious incident and his role in assisting with concealing related details, charges that were classified as lesser offenses under the law. Prior to appearing in court, Jose had been held for a total of 205 days at the Clark County Detention Center, and at sentencing, the court imposed a total term of 2 years in prison, with credit given for the time he had already served. This decision quickly drew mixed reactions within the local community, as well as among members of the prosecution itself, with critics arguing that the punishment did not adequately reflect the gravity of the situation. Deputy District Attorney John Gordani stated to the media that lawmakers in the state of Nevada should re-examine the existing legal framework, emphasizing that the handling of a young person's body after a tragedy and the act of helping to conceal what occurred should not be treated lightly within the justice system. The family of Leslie Palacios later also spoke publicly, expressing their perspective on the sentence handed down to Jose.
Si alguien sabe de estos criminales, por favor que se entreguen. Que se entreguen a la justicia, porque los van a encontrar a donde se vayan, que se entreguen. ¿Por qué la mataron a mi hija? Ella era una niña muy buena, estaba estudiando, ya se iba a graduar. ¿Por qué le hicieron eso? ¿Por qué la familia fue cómplice de que me la hayan matado? ¿Por qué? Yo no voy a descansar hasta no hacer justicia, que todos ellos paguen todo. Porque ella fue como mi mejor amiga. Ella no se merecía esto que le hicieron. Ella era muy buena niña y una mejor amiga. Yo más quiero justicia y que paguen por lo que le hicieron, porque ella no se merece esto. Y que lo atrapan a toda su familia, al papá, a todos, porque ella no se merecía esto. Ella era muy buena persona.
After the sentence was imposed, Jose Rangel was required to serve only about 8 additional months in custody before becoming eligible for release. As during his pretrial detention and incarceration, he had participated in state-mandated programs and courses that allowed for sentence reduction under existing regulations. Jose's release sparked significant backlash within the local community, with many expressing the view that the legal consequences failed to fully reflect the seriousness of the case. And from that point forward, he returned to life outside custody. Meanwhile, his son, Eric Rangel, had still not been brought before the justice system and remained beyond the reach of law enforcement for an extended period, despite having been referenced in at least 2 nationally broadcast investigative television programs. During the search efforts, reports surfaced suggesting that Eric may have been seen in regions of Chihuahua and Durango in Mexico. However, at that time, these reports lacked sufficient verification to lead to a confirmed location or an arrest. While the case remained unresolved, the family of Leslie Palacios repeatedly issued appeals to the public, urging anyone with information regarding the whereabouts of Eric Rangel or events following the moment Leslie lost contact to come forward and provide that information to law enforcement, in the hope that the case could one day be fully clarified.
We always think about her all the time. Like, there's not a day, that goes by that we don't. Everything reminds us to bring yourself in, because there's no way of hiding out anymore. You can't hide forever and just, pay for what you did, because we're not gonna stop until we get justice.
At that time, Eric Rangel Ibarra remained listed as a wanted individual in connection with the ongoing investigation, and authorities urged anyone with information regarding his whereabouts or activities to proactively contact the Nevada State Police through the publicly released tip line in order to assist the investigative process and bring the case to completion. According to sources in Las Vegas, Eric Rangel Ibarra, the wanted individual in the case connected to the death of Leslie Palacios in 2020, was arrested in Mexico in July 2024 after a prolonged period of evading authorities, before undergoing the necessary legal procedures for extradition back to the United States. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department confirmed that it coordinated with the U.S. Marshals Service to return Rangel Ibarra to Las Vegas, where he was taken into custody at the Clark County Detention Center and now faces serious criminal charges related to the case. According to publicly released information, as of August 28, 2025, Eric Rangel Ibarra was formally being held in custody in Las Vegas for investigative and prosecutorial proceedings, and the court has scheduled his trial for August 24, 2026, during which time he is to remain detained at the Clark County Detention Center without consideration for release on bail. The case of Leslie Palacios ultimately came to a close through a series of legal consequences that stretched on for years, leaving behind profound questions about responsibility, vigilance in newly formed relationships, and the critical importance of responding promptly when someone suddenly loses contact, serving as a reminder that a decision that may seem ordinary can lead to irreversible consequences. Thank you for taking the time to follow today's story. If you have any thoughts or would like to leave a message in remembrance of Leslie Palacios, please share it in the comments below so that we can collectively honor her and reflect on the lessons this case has left behind. Don't forget to share the video if you believe the stories featured in true crime documentary should be more widely shared to raise awareness. And be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit like to support future content. Goodbye, and I'll see you again in the next episodes.